This session is a core conversation. It's got two parts, how to get good reviews and how to give good reviews. And the first part is mainly focused at prolific patch writers, but also it's applicable to anybody. And then the second is focus on the people who do reviews. So if that sounds like something that you're really interested in, reviewing core issues, then you're in the right place. Otherwise, you can pick a different session. It's totally okay with me. That's all right. So hi, I'm Kathy. I'm YesCT on Drupal.org, and I'm too tall for this microphone. I work for Compress, which is based in Hamburg, Germany, and I work there part-time. They pay me to work on core, which is really cool, and then they pay me to blog about working on core, which is also really cool. And this is Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea Soper. I work for The Nerdery, and where I develop for Drupal, and I'm Zendoodles on Drupal.org.
So we have a big problem in that there are a lot of issues, and a huge chunk of them, 20% of them, needs review. And the problem with having issues lingering in needs review is it's very discouraging for the people who worked on it hard enough to get it to the point that it needs review. So they worked really hard, and then they cannot progress without somebody else helping them. People who work on core can't work in isolation. The issue queues go back and forth, and it takes many people collaborating together. So if you only have people working on producing a patch and you don't have people reviewing, it halts the process and it discourages the people who are making the patches. It's also really hard on reviewers to have so many issues lingering for a really long time at needs review. So there's over 2,000 core issues waiting for reviews. 1,350 have been waiting for reviews for 2 months or more, and 500 have been waiting for a year. If you contribute and you work really hard and nobody reviews your thing for a year, you're not going to work because you want to be useful with your time. Nobody wants to just work because they work. I mean, we want to feel productive and we want to feel useful. Some issues have comments on them, so they kind of got a review, but the review is like, works or doesn't work. And we also want to get better reviews when we do get them. We want more reviews. We want reviews done when the patches are fresh and current, and we want reviews that have actionable feedback. To do this, one of the things we can do is recruit core developers to work on more issues. So some of the things that we're going to talk about is how to make that easier so that we can grow those pools of people. So let's say you are writing a patch and you work really hard on it and you post it in the issue and you mark it needs review and nobody looks at it. So what can you do to get somebody to look at it? One of the things you can do is in your comment when you upload your patch is you can be really specific about the kind of review that you need. Because you're going to upload a lot of patches over the life of an issue, and initially you might be looking for architectural or proposed solution feedback on the general methodology that you're using. That's a different kind of review than I need a review before we ask a core committer to look at it, because that kind of review is I need to make sure that we've met all the CoreGates, that all the standards that we need to are in place. So when you post a patch, be really specific about the kind of review you need. Maybe you need a accessibility review. Maybe you need somebody to manually test the thing that you're posting. So just adding some words to direct the people who are going to come to look at it is really helpful. And in addition to adding words to the comment when you post a patch are these great tags that you can tag. And anybody can change the tags on an issue. You don't have to be a special permission on Drupal.org. So use tags. Make sure the issue summary is up to date. Hold on, hang on. Good. I don't have to read all these because I'm going to talk about them. So use tags. So let's go back to that for a minute. So for example, these are some sample tags. The really nice thing about the tags field on Drupal.org is it's autocomplete, and we've been standardizing the tags a little bit so that when something is needs review, they all start with needs. So you can start typing needs space, and you get a list of tags that already exist there, and you can pick from those. So needs architectural review, needs usability review, needs manual testing, needs screenshot. And this is really awesome because this is how people find your issue who want to do what you need them to do. So you get people who stumble upon your issue because it's the status is needs review, but they'll be like myself. I'll find a needs review issue, but it doesn't need my kind of review. I really like doing manual testing. And sometimes that's the thing that I want to do. So I will look for issues with that tag and then do that. So if that's what your issue needs, mark it with the tag. And then you will get pools of people who are actually want to do that, and they will find your issue. Make sure that the issue summary that you have is at least correct. So it doesn't have to be like super perfect. I like issue summaries that use the issue summary template and are all up to date with all the comments, but at least correct any actual misinformation that's in the issue summary. And the reason why that is important is because let's say you really want your patch reviewed, somebody finds your issue because you did use a needs tag, and then they start to read the issue summary and they get confused. And then there's 25 comments of an argument, and they're a little bit more confused, and they get to the end and they see your patch and they're like, ugh. They want to be efficient. Your potential reviewer doesn't want to waste their time. And so they're going to move on to another issue. They're going to be like, I'll look for a different issue that needs manual testing that I can understand better. So you're trying to capture these people who find your issue to review your patch. And in order to capture them and keep them there so you don't lose them to other issues, you have to make your issue better than the other issues by updating the issue summary. If you don't have time to update the issue summary, that's cool, right? Tag it needs issue summary update, and somebody else will update your issue summary for you. And then you still get people to review it, so that's really good. When you're updating the issue summary or in your comment, you've tagged it with what it needs, like needs a screenshot, needs manual testing. There are some super cool documents already written that are called contributor task. And if you do a Google search for Drupal contributor tasks, you'll find all of these documents already written. And the nice thing about that is, for example, there's a contributor task document for how to do a review. There's a contributor task document for how to add screenshots. There's one for how to do an accessibility review. Because somebody has found your issue because you used the needs tags. Somebody is committed to actually doing the review because they can understand the issue summary and what you need them to review about your thing, but they don't know how to actually do a good review so that you get the kind of feedback that you want. So if you give them instructions for how to do that review, that means that the review that you get is going to be a lot better. But you don't want to waste your time writing out how to give a good review in every issue. That's ridiculous. So there's these contributor task documentations that you can post a link to. So if you do a Google search, for example, for Drupal contributor task accessibility review, it will give you exactly the link, and you can paste that either into the issue summary in the remaining tasks section or just in a recent comment saying, I need an accessibility review. Here's the instructions for how to do an accessibility review. Meta issues are excellent. When you have a meta issue and you have instructions for people how to make all the patches for all the issues that are part of the meta, include a section there which is how to review these patches that are in there, because sometimes they're really specific. So take, for example, the schema issues of adding schema for everything in core. The way to review those schema issues is different than the way you review all other issues. So having specific instructions in the meta for how to do the review means that the reviews that you get are going to be a lot better. If you need somebody to test something on a mobile device, or you need somebody to test something who doesn't have a local dev environment, for example, if you want a blind user to do an accessibility review on your patch, you can build a link with simplytest.me. You build a URL, and in that URL, you include the instruction to tell simplytest.me to apply your patch to Drupal 8. And then you post that link in your issue. And then from any device, and anybody, no matter if they have a dev environment or not, they can review your issue. And it makes it a whole lot easier for people with accessibility issues if they don't have to go through all that process of setting everything up. They just use the simplytest.me link. The last part of how to get good reviews on your issues is to give a good review. It educates the general contributor population because they see more examples of good reviews. And then they're like, oh, yeah, that's how we do it in Drupal. And then they give good reviews to you.
Also, you can trade good reviews as well. So if another core contributor has an issue that needs reviewed, you could maybe talk nicely and review one of theirs, and then they will review one of yours. So how do we give a good review? And I should speed up, shouldn't I? Yeah, I'm sorry. So the first thing, in order to give a good review and to try to maybe facilitate the process of giving a good review is to kind of be tooled up and have all of the tools and access to all of these things that to allow you to give a proper review and quickly be able to write all of the important information in one place, including Dread Editor, so that you can just do a review right there in place. Drush, so that if you're going to do any testing, you can do a Drush SQL drop and site install and all of those sorts of things. Simplytest.me, as Kathy was discussing, you can apply a patch and test things, which is more of a manual testing sort of thing. And then there's a screen capturing tool to allow you to be able to grab a screenshot and throw it right into the issue quickly. And of course IRC, so that you can collaborate with the other people who may need a review as well. And ask questions, which is one of the things that we talk about here in full frontalicity. So when we're reviewing a patch, it's important to acknowledge effort and encourage the patch submitter to by acknowledging their effort. These people have put time and effort and thought into uploading a patch. So even if the patch is completely wrong, we need to make sure that we're still encouraging people to do the right thing by saying thank you for your effort, and then supporting improvement by telling them how to make it better. So if they've done it wrong, then to say, it's amazing that you've contributed, it's amazing that you've helped, and here's what I need for you to do to make it better. And then but on the other hand, if you're not sure about whether or not it is don't just assume it's wrong. Ask questions to to maybe validate that maybe their process, their thought process, the way that they've solved the problem isn't a valid way to do it. Ask lots of questions, which goes back to the IRC as a tool for patch review. Does that slide show up? Okay. I just don't have any notes. Okay, I'm sorry. So we need to make sure the things that we need to check when we're doing a patch review. We need to know, does it work? Does it fix the issue? Does it stay on scope? Have we strayed and started changing white space in completely different files, or are things missing? Does it introduce rejections? Does it introduce regressions? Does the patch make sense? If you're reading through it, is it readable? Are there enough comments so that the next guy who is reading this code but doesn't have the issue in front of them, will they be able to understand the code? And is there a better way? But this is a really tricky spot. If we remember full frontal nicety a minute ago, is there a better way? Well, sometimes that's important to point out, and sometimes the perfect way is maybe not necessary. Is there a better or more elegant solution? But let's not have fights about core issues just for the purposes of having, fights, right? And then another thing that we need to make sure is these things are blockers. So when we're reviewing, we need to make sure that there is proper documentation, that the performance gate is passed, the SQL queries and caches and memory usage, and there's documentation on all of the CoreGates on Drupal.org, and you can search for that and turn that up. Accessibility, like Kathy was talking about, having to do with making sure that a blind person can use a reader and that sort of thing. Usability, and testing to make sure that everything has gates. I'm sorry, has a test, and that way we know things don't introduce regressions. Make sure to include a reference to Drupal.org documents when it's appropriate. So if something is missing a CoreGates sort of thing, then we need to make sure that we reference the document and say, here's what needs to be improved, and here's why, and here's how to learn how to improve it. Check the previous comments to make sure that that everything that's been suggested or noted about the patch has been included. If you're manually testing, make sure that the steps to reproduce match what you've done, and if they do not, include new steps to reproduce. And if it is something which is being tested in such a way that the browser affects the way something is displayed, then make sure that you show that you include what browsers you tested in, so that we know which things are left that need to be tested, and point out anything that's blocking versus things that are non-blocking, and consider a follow-up issue for non-blockers. Within your review, also use the headings. I'm sorry. When writing your review, use HTML so that we can it's easy to read, and like headings and lists, li, embed your images with image tags, and use the bracket or hash number in order to generate a link that shows us all of the awesomeness of what the state of the issue is.
No, you don't. All right. So if you're looking for the link for the CoreGates documentation, you can ask in the bot in IRC. You can ask it CoreGates, and it'll give you the link. So all these things have to work together, right? The people who do reviews need tools so that they can do their reviews efficiently and faster. The people who produce the patches need to do this long to-do list that I gave you to do so that you get people reviewing your stuff and you don't wait 2 months to get a review. So when we look at that part for the patch producers, and we think, how is it faster to do that stuff that Kathy said? Kathy just told me to do all these things. That's more work for me. How is it faster? And there's two parts of that. One is, it's not faster for you when you're posting your patch. It means you'll get your review faster. So you won't have to wait 2 months. You might wait a week to get your review. So that's kind of how that bit is faster. And the other part is that those things that I told you to do are ridiculous. Okay? It's stupid that you have to know what tags are there and and there's too many to pick from. And you have to kind of already know that you should do that. You need to know that there is such a thing as needs accessibility reviews so that when you start typing it auto-completes, right? It's also ridiculous that that I'm suggesting that you go Google for a contributor task document on how to do an accessibility review, and that that's your burden as the patch producer to include a link to tell reviewers how to review your stuff. It's silly. So I suggest, because core conversation is supposed to be outrageous and suggest things, right? So I suggest that those things in the future are integrated into the way that we use the issue queue. So that when you upload a patch, there's check boxes of what you need. And you check off what you need. And it automatically updates in the issue summary the remaining tasks. And if one of the remaining tasks is needs accessibility review, that it knows where the instructions to do that are. And then in the issue summary, it's right there. So as a patch producer, my ideal vision for you is that you upload your patch and you check off what you need in terms of your review and you hit save. And that's the only thing that you do. And automatically then, the next person who comes and looks at your issue sees that it needs manual testing, it needs accessibility review, it needs docs review, and the instructions for how to do that are already linked there. That's my outrageous suggestion. And that's the end of our talk. So we have 9 more minutes for questions on the topic of how
suggestions.
Or suggestions, right? Like I want to know your outrageous ideas, right? Because we have this problem, right? We're not getting reviews fast enough, and it's frustrating for everybody.
Hi, sorry if you can hear.
I can't hear you.
Is there a switch? I can hear you, but I don't think that person back there can.
I can speak loudly anyway. I have
Get closer to the mic.
Hi, I can speak loudly. That's better. So 2 really quick points. One is that I think that we need a way to make sure that when people do their first patch, that we have a really quick way of making sure they get reviewed. I really don't think that people would mind kind of tagging it themselves to say this is my first patch or this is my early patch, and then making sure that we have a priority of jumping on those patches. Another thing, and I haven't kind of worked out in my head how this might work, but the truth of the whole core thing is that people like the credit, people like to have their name on patches, and the truth is that we need reviews and we need people to RTBC, and we don't get enough of that. And maybe, I know this would be a killer for people that are actually having to put stuff in, but giving people actual credit for reviewing and RTBCing as well on the issue could be a really good way, because I think then people would probably troll the issue queues looking for issues to review. And actually, it probably is almost as important as having the patches done themselves.
There are actually 2 things that I heard you suggest there, and one is giving contributor commit credit to reviewers, which actually is sometimes done. And then the second thing that I heard you say, which was right in the beginning, which is kind of brilliant, but you didn't linger on it very long, is that a brand new contributor who is uploading their first patch should have some kind of special flower treatment, that this should be something like a tag or something, but a brand new contributor who is contributing their very first patch doesn't know to say, I am a special flower issue, but we already know that because we know this is a new Drupal.org user account, and this is their first, yes, exactly. And I think that's a brilliant idea.
We could have a sidebar block. That's why I'm standing here.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're a patch producer and you're an experienced contributor, and you know that the person who reviewed your patch worked really hard on it, you can suggest a commit credit message in the issue summary, because the way that core maintainers sometimes make their commit messages is they use the Dredditor suggest commit message button, and that's what they use. Because they just want to copy and paste something, right? They want to be productive. And if you've been working hard on an issue and you know that somebody is not going to get credit, like that they're not on that list, but you think that they should, you can put your own suggestion right in the issue summary, and that helps core committers take your advice and give that person.
At the very top.
At the very top.
In a code tag with a big header that says, use this as the commit message.
The other problem that we have is we used to say things like that we have 0.2% of active Drupal.org users who are contributors. And I've tried to stop saying that. What we have is a small subset, some percentage of people who are patch contributors. We don't have any way of measuring contributors.
So yeah, this idea of if it's someone's first patch, we can build a view of that. We could have a sidebar block that highlights the first attachment that has a patch extension. Is it too far?
You have to get really closer.
Okay. Ooh, this is like uncomfortably close. I just met this microphone. So what we could do is we could have a view that,
Okay, that's funny, right? Because Jess is saying we could have a view. And she brought views into core. So.
Okay. We could have a sidebar block that lists attachments with patch extensions for the first time someone has uploaded it to a particular module on that module's project page in the sidebar. And we already have, it's actually not that hard to add sidebar blocks. That's a bit of a more complicated query, but it's doable, and it's the kind of thing that might even be doable before the Drupal 7 upgrade, because maybe it's not. But in any case, I think that would be a great thing to do, and I think that you should do that because you suggested it. Because this is what happens: is you suggested an awesome thing, but I think it'd be amazing. It'd be a great tool, and that actually gives, for reviewers, looking for someone's first time patch. It's oh, I will give this person feedback right away, so that maybe the second time they have to wait 3 months or 5 years to get a review, but the first time they get a response right away from someone who's just sort of following them.
I wonder if it should be first couple, because I think sometimes the first one is
that's a good idea too.
Like this, and then you go away,
right.
And it's the second one that kills you. Mm-hmm.
Right, so he's suggesting that it's perhaps the first
5.
couple. So
Yeah.
some small number.
I think that's a fantastic idea, and I love it.
Right. Now,
Maybe it
because,
could have some coloring, this is the first one, it's green, and then as it...
Okay, you visual artistic person over there.
It's not accessible.
But I think it's hard because it's the same problem for experienced contributors as it is for new contributors, right? Mm-hmm. So it's your 100th patch, and you don't want to wait 2 months for your review. It's your first patch. You don't want to wait 2 months for your review. So sometimes we're phrasing it as what do experienced contributors need in order to speed this process up, and sometimes we're phrasing it as what do new people. But really, I think both audiences can really benefit from the solutions that we're talking about.
Hey there. So Drupal can jump on the badge train that everyone else is on.
Okay.
And contributors can get, first 5 commits or first 5 patches.
Yeah, so in your swag bag, which nobody looks at, right? But, okay, some people look at. We had a post, the core mentoring people who are fanatics.
There's a
about-
postcard.
about core mentoring have a postcard, and it has a tag cloud on it. And when you see your name on a tag cloud and it wasn't there before, you get really excited, right? So getting a badge and doing gamification is really motivating for some people. And I love to play games. And the game that I'm playing with myself right now is trying to get to 100 commit credits. That's my game right now. And that's motivating for me. And, you know, and so I think it's hard because we don't want people to game the system. We want to use a gaming system to encourage them to be productive. And that's, I think, why when you suggested game, you heard people go, oh, because we're worried. We're worried about that. We have to think really hard about it. But we need to do something, right?
I'm one of those people who had...
Really close to the microphone.
I'm one of those people who had an issue that probably took 6 or 9 months for someone to respond, and the issue went for 2 years, but it eventually got in. That's about it.
You get a horrible nitpicky review.
That's all right. I can handle that. But another idea for a review would be people that have reviewed similar types of issues. So you could reach out to people.
That's a very good idea.
And also, when you submit a patch, you can take yourself out of the view. Exclude yourself from the view. Anyway. The other one I had was when you submit an issue, it could list other open types of issues that are the same type. Just a few or something like that.
But what would be the algorithm, if you will, for determining what's a similar issue?
Well, I guess it kind of hinges on people tagging stuff well, but
Right.
yeah, that's one way.
So now we're back to a manual process.
Right,
And-
so I wrote down, see a list of people who have reviewed similar issues. That was part of what you said. And then what was the second bit?
When you submit a patch or do something, it could list other issues that are similar. So
Right, so,
you don't have to go back and then search the list. You can just go, oh, there's another one.
yeah, what time is it?
We're 1 minute into ours now.
Okay, so the tricky bit about this particular core conversation slot is we had to jam 2 core conversations into the time for 1. So despite the fact that Andrea and I could have talked for a lot longer about that, and we want to hear your suggestions for a lot, we can't. So we have to do our next.
She still has a second.
But you're getting set up?
Right.
Okay. So we have just a little bit left.
I have 2 quick suggestions. And one is the suggestion for some way of actually tracking, once you've submitted a patch, if you can actually review somebody else's patch, that then bumps your issue to be reviewed up in a queue. Or somehow, I know that's harder to do.
I think it's a great idea, but it's, I mean, unfortunately, there is no queue to be reviewed, really. I mean, and there's such a, it's so, I mean, I think that in theory, it's, you know, this trading thing that we do informally. But the fact of the matter is that, like, the queue of to be reviewed is there's so many different, like, there's so many patches that I can't review. I'm just not capable of reviewing them. So it's not like there's any group of people who it's their dedicated responsibility to review patches all across everything, because it's you know, we each have our own skills, we each have our own abilities that we bring to an issue. And so if I have an understanding of a configuration management issue, I can provide meaningful feedback on a patch about that.
This is
But
Jess.
web services, I can't. So
Sure, but I think even
You
just
don't know.
having a time-based listing of this issue has been sitting in the queue and is completely unreviewed for 6 months should somehow bump it up the line rather than continuing to let it be.
No, it's hard, I think, because sometimes an issue that's been sitting in the queue for 6 months that hasn't been reviewed is not a priority. And if we really needed it, so we do have ways of prioritizing certain issues. The ones that really need to be reviewed this week are the critical ones, right?
Sure.
Because they're critical to moving Drupal forward in general. But then you have the problem of, you know, not just moving the project forward, but helping that contributor move forward. So it's very tricky.
So the other question, or the other suggestion I have is that while tagging issues is great, every issue needs documentation, performance testing, you know, all the gates that need to be addressed. And the few that you could actually say, well, this is in a contrib issue or whatever, and may not be relevant, it would be much easier to have a flag that you could say, not applicable or whatever else, and mark that off. That's in the issue. That's basically predefined with
But more
these,
by default.
by default.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than actually that somebody could just say, okay, these are the 5 steps that need to make sure that it goes past, and it's done or it's not done.
Right.
And instead of having to actually tag the issues all the time.
All right, I'll write that down. Okay, so we're going to be available after the core conversations. Write your question down or tweet your question so you don't forget it. Right after this is lunch, right? So after our session, we can hang out a little bit and make sure that we talk. Okay, can you clap for me? Us, but it didn't feel finished. I needed closure.
Closed and fixed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, we have to mark it fixed and wait 2 weeks for the system message to close it.